members of Parliament, Minister of Finance and support staff, all viewing or listening to this meeting of Parliament, good afternoon and welcome back to the meeting. The meeting was ongoing and had to be adjourned due to an electricity outage here in town. At the time, we had started the discussions on the continuation of a meeting regarding Ennia. This meeting was a request by members of Parliament to be informed on the status of Ennia, the ongoing discussions, etc., etc. These questions were posed in a Central Committee meeting of September the 27th of last year. Subsequently, earlier this month actually, the answers to those questions were provided by the Minister. And at the beginning of this part of the meeting, the Minister informed Parliament that he had an update regarding Ennia and presented some information regarding the current situation of Ennia. Subsequently to that, we went over to members of Parliament asking questions as to that information received from the Minister, and we were at MP Christophe Emmanuel, who had just started his deliberations based on the answers or the information provided by the Minister. So with that brief recap, I invite MP Christophe Emmanuel to take the floor. MP Emmanuel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady. So, Madam Chair, was at a point where I asked the Minister, concerning the adoption of the motion in Curacao with the Parliament. So I would want to believe that he got that one concerned when I make mention that they are talking about selling assets in Curacao. And then I went on to, through you, Madam Chair, to ask the Minister to make a point that we receive what is called favorable, according to what was in the newspapers, interest rate of 3.4% on our loans because, Madam Chair, we were agreeing with the Dutch funding of Ennia. Okay, and I quote, St. Martin gets its liquidity loans refinanced against 3.4% interest, while Curacao, that has refused to accept the Dutch loans to solve problems at insurance company Ennia, will have to pay 5.1%. Aruba, that so far has refused to accept a law that regulates financial supervision, will have to pay 6.9%. This appears from a letter State Secretary Alexander Van Huffelen sent to the Dutch Parliament. That's where I'm reading it from. So with that being said, Madam Chair, it means that St. Martin, or the Minister of Finance, was in agreement in accepting the Dutch bailout plan for Ennia. I would like to know through you, Madam Chair, seeing that the loans was favorable or the interest of 3.4%. St. Martin got that because the government of St. Martin, or the Minister of Finance, was agreeing with the Dutch government on the bailout of Ennia. So we received 3.4% on our loans. Now, Madam Chair, that seems to be off the table. It seems to be off the table. And here we have a solution coming from Curacao to solve the problem based on how Curacao see it, not necessarily for St. Martin. So through you, Madam Chair, the question is, what is St. Martin's solution for this problem? Because, Madam Chair, if it was so at one point in time that the Dutch government came with a solution, St. Martin agreed with it. So because St. Martin agreed with it, they got 3.4%. Now that agreement is off the table. So the minister was wise, he grabbed on it one time, we got a 3.4%, Curacao didn't. Good job. Madam Chair, now that is off the table, and the Parliament of Curacao is saying, look, listen, for their best interest and what is happening in Curacao, they are looking to sell assets. That's a solution that they are coming up for Ennia. I am asking through you, Madam Chair, to the Honorable Minister of Finance, what's your solution? What's the St. Martin solution? What is St. Martin coming up with to deal with our portion of the what? 3,000 individuals that is here, Madam Chair. Because, Madam Chair, lady, through you, I remember vividly the Minister of Finance saying his main concern is the pensioners here in St. Martin, who's approximately about 3,000 individuals, is where he want to agree or where he want to take this Dutch loan at the time, as it was. That was his main concern. And if that is not happening, they will be in jeopardy. What is happening now, Madam Chair? So it's either here nor there. So we haven't taken the one from the Dutch. Nothing is a solution. Where are we right now when it stands, Madam Chair, to the pensioners of St. Martin? The 3,000 plus, or just the 3,000, seeing that in totality is about 30,000, which the majority is in Curacao, and St. Martin's about 3,000. Where are we right now when it comes to their pension? Because it was said, Madam Chair, if it's not done, and if we don't take it fast, their pension can be in jeopardy. We are going into April. Is their pension in jeopardy, Madam Chair? Because that was the reason why we should take it. But the question is now, though, Madam Chair, what is St. Martin's solution? Saying that Curacao is coming up with a solution. And I haven't heard Curacao saying anything that this is a solution for Curacao and St. Martin. Curacao Parliament unanimously came together and decided to do that. I would like to hear through you, Madam Chair, the Honorable Minister of Finance, what is St. Martin's position? What is St. Martin's position in terms of our solution? And when it comes to Mullet Bay, also, what is the solution? Are we going to purchase Mullet Bay, Madam Chair? Also, Madam Chair, I would like to ask through you to the Honorable Minister. Madam Chair, this seems to be a problem because of lack of oversight when it comes from the central bank and allowing certain things to happen. Madam Chair, we all can get down and talk about whether it was the days of Trump, whether it was the days of Jardine, and these two individuals having a fight, Madam Chair, according to what they would say, penis envy, Madam Chair, to see who was better with what policy or whichever policy, Madam Chair. But today, St. Martin is suffering because of lack of oversight. However, Madam Chair, we have members on the board of the central bank. The Minister of Finance of St. Martin, the Minister of Finance, Madam Chair, through you, are the bosses. Are there any sanctions that is going to be levied to these individuals or to the central bank? I would like to know, Madam Chair. I thank you very much.
MP Christophe Emmanuel, thank you. I look at the members of Parliament. I see no indication digitally or otherwise. So I look to the Minister. Minister, would you need some time? Sure, and Minister, while we're going to be adjourning for a few moments, could I add to the questions of members of Parliament the following? Have you, Minister, or your ministry seen an actuarial report that substantiates the decision or the agreement that has been reached over the years to come with the conclusion that has already been arrived at in terms of the future of policyholders and their payments? Could you also, Minister, at this particular time, in the context of Ennia, in the context of the motion to which my colleague referred, give a status on Mullet Bay? What is the status of Mullet Bay in the context of the agreement that has been reached regarding Ennia and the loans to be provided to Ennia? The Minister, some months ago here in Parliament, sort of en passé, it was mentioned that the Central Bank of Curacao and St. Martin, or the persons currently managing Mullet Bay had requested the court to instruct the government of St. Martin to have the beach at Mullet Bay vacated. In other words, to demolish the structure, clean the beach of Mullet Bay of the structures that are currently on the beach of Mullet Bay. From all indications, that request was not honored by the courts. Was it the courts where this matter was put, or was it a request to government not via the courts? If it was via the courts, can the government of St. Martin provide the Parliament of St. Martin with that request that was submitted and with the verdict or the decision of the court in that context? So again, during a meeting, I will find the exact date to inform you. The question was asked to yourself and your colleague, Minister of Romy, and it was mentioned that it was the central bank who had requested of the government to clean the beach of Mullet Bay. In other words, to demolish what is on Mullet Bay. Any information that the minister has with respect to that one, what exactly did the request say or request from government, and secondly, what was the answer of the court or the decision of the court? So, Minister, could you take those along with your answering, please? And I will now adjourn. Minister, you had indicated how many, sorry? That was before, oh, you had indicated the time needed before my questions. So now with my questions, if you can give an update on the time necessary. Minister?
So for some of your questions, we need more time, longer than the 15 minutes, so unless you send those in writing. So we could answer the ones for MP M.D on the 15, and your one, we need some more digging, because that's also in the Ministry of Romy. We have to go and get that information regarding the court case and so forth.
Okay, so we're going to adjourn now for 15 minutes and come back here, Minister, and then we will discuss further how much time you would need to have the other information, because I think it's very relevant also in the context of the budget discussions which we will be having. So I will now adjourn until 4:45, a quarter.
I found this on the web.
4:45, a quarter to 5. Meeting adjourned. Members of Parliament, all others tuned in to this meeting, Minister of Finance and his support staff, welcome back to this Central Committee meeting of Parliament. This is Central Committee meeting number 2. The meeting regards a request from 3 members of Parliament, Gumbs, Peterson and Weever, for an update from the Minister regarding Ennia Insurance Company. The meeting started on the 27th of September of last year. Minister provided answers in writing, and now in this meeting earlier provided an update presentation to the members of Parliament. Members of Parliament subsequently asked a few questions, and the Minister, after a brief adjournment, is now back to respond to the questions by members of Parliament. So I invite the Minister at this point to take the floor. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Starting with the question from MP Christophe Emmanuel. MP asked information on Curaçao was talking about selling assets. Is the Minister aware that Parliament of Curaçao indicated to sell any assets? I just shared the 3 motions with the Parliament that were presented in the Parliament of Curaçao. With regard to sale of assets, it is agreed that it has to be beneficial for both policyholders of Ennia as a whole, and any fast-selling assets would not be preferable due to the value potentially being lost. In addition to that, Madam Chair, Mr. Martis and Mr. Alexander of Sun Resorts, they came to come a couple times already, and in those meetings, it was indicated by the Council of Ministers to the Ennia Resorts Board that and actually we came to an understanding, actually, that the sale of Mullet Bay will always be hand in hand with the government of St. Martin, and that we'll be informed and we would be part of that. Next question. St. Martin received a favorable interest rate based on the first agreement Dutch funding of Ennia. It seems to be off the table. What is the solution? This question is also by MP Christophe Emmanuel, where he kind of indicated that there was a Dutch solution. There was no Dutch solution, Madam Chair. All of the solutions come from jointly Curaçao, St. Martin. The solution that was presented prior was a solution that we all agreed to. That was Curaçao and St. Martin. And at the last minute, Curaçao pulled out when it was discussed that when they had concerns on their interest norm. At that point in time, the Netherlands indicated to us that both countries then were suffered and basically having higher interest rates. I personally then contacted the Netherlands and said, look, we can't, as St. Martin, we can't be punished, for lack of better words, for a last-minute pulling out of Curaçao. On top of that, in the past, we've indicated to want to have separate solutions, right, for these exact same reasons. And it was stated continuously that, no, we need to find one solution. St. Martin cannot have their own solution, and Curaçao have their own. We need to find one solution. And seeing that Curaçao now holds 90% of the policyholders, the solution that benefited those typically was the one that was preferred, right, at the bigger risk. But we've had good working meetings, and we've always come with a solution together. That's regarding the 3.4. So we got a 3.4% because we agreed to a solution, not because we agreed to a Dutch solution. And because we weren't going to be punished because Curaçao backed out last minute, because we could not proceed with the solution without Curaçao being part of it. In addition to that, Madam Chair, the solution as presented today was a solution that was prepared by both St. Martin and Curaçao together. Curaçao presented the solution in Parliament before St. Martin did, but the solution as presented is coming from both countries and not only Curaçao. If we do not find a solution, we can anticipate having a higher interest rate for the refinancing. All parties have to agree to a proposed solution together. The next question from MP Christophe Emmanuel was regarding lack of oversight from Central Bank. This was answered already, Madam Chair, in the questions presented before, but I'll briefly answer again. The public prosecutor for Curacao and St. Martin is currently investigating the Ennia matter and whether criminal charges can be made against the persons involved in the Ennia matter. In addition, the central bank has made and will continue to make efforts to recover damages resulting from causing the solvency shortfall from all those liable for it, such as through instituting and enforcing claim and other civil proceedings. MP Westcott Williams, have you seen an actuarial report on policyholders and their payments? There's a letter that the actuaries are involved. This letter will be shared confidentially to Parliament. The calculations were based on involvement of multiple actuaries, including those interned at Central Bank as externals. The next question by MP Westcott Williams, the status of Mullet Bay in the context of the agreement. The Central Bank Ennia is currently working on the best scenario for Mullet Bay in the interest of all policyholders of Ennia, including those on St. Martin. It is the intention St. Martin will be informed and involved of any developments. This includes establishing the boundaries of Mullet Bay area also in the view of the beach area. The value of Mullet Bay has been established, including the beach part. And Madam Chair, the last question regarding the bonus, we need more time for that question. That's all.
Thank you, Minister of Finance. I see MP Christophe Emmanuel would like to make some follow-up comments or questions or ask questions. MP Emmanuel, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Is more clarification. Madam Chair, the Minister made mention, and Madam Chair, I would like for it to be clearly said through you, Madam Chair, that it was not a Dutch solution, but everyone agreed to the solution. So I would like to ask through you, Madam Chair, is the Minister saying that Curacao, St. Martin, and the Dutch government was in agreement with the Dutch loan as a solution to Ennia? Is that what the Minister is saying? Because that's the question that I asked, that the Dutch came with a solution when I read the article, Madam Chair, and I quote, St. Martin gets its liquidity loans financed against 3.4% interest, while Curacao, that has refused to accept a Dutch loan to solve problems at insurance company Ennia. The Dutch loan. So when the Minister said, Madam Chair, that all was in agreement and then Curacao pulled out, it is to my understanding through you, Madam Chair, that the Minister is saying that Curacao, St. Martin, and the Dutch government was in agreement to the Dutch loan as a solution to Ennia. I would like to know if that is what the Minister is saying, because, Madam Chair, if that was the case, then how is it that Curacao didn't get the favorable interest rate? Because they pulled out and they wasn't in agreement. Second to that, Madam Chair, when I asked the other question concerning the solution now, that the Parliament of Curacao unanimously, except for Kem, agreeing with the selling of the asset, the Minister said that no, all is in agreement with that solution. So I am asking the Honorable Minister, is he saying, again, that St. Martin is part in agreement with the solution that is present now presented by the Parliament of Curacao? Is the Minister saying that, Madam Chair? Can that be clarified, please? Thank you.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. Minister, can you immediately respond to the Member of Parliament, Emmanuel?
Yes, Madam Chair. So let me even clarify a little further, Madam Chair. Actually, the Netherlands was not even initially in favor of the first proposal. So Curacao was actually the one who was pushing for the loan initially. We as St. Martin initially also didn't, that wasn't our preference. But the Netherlands was willing to go through because they were saying we need to find a solution, right? Because they thought it was very risky initially also. So after fighting, right, and getting to agree to give the loan, at the last minute, Curacao pulled out of that agreement, saying no, it will affect them too much, the interest norm too much. But initially, the NES was not in favor of that initial solution. Yes.
Minister, you may continue.
So the NAS was only meant to provide the loan if the solution was sustainable. However, the CFT also advised the loan of the Dutch, which the loan of the Dutch would mean that the interest burden would be exceeding and no capital investments can be done. And that's the reason why Curacao then denied the proposal of the loan.
MP Emmanuel?
Yes, Madam Chair, he didn't answer the one as present now with the Parliament of Curacao, but we can come back to that one. But Madam Chair, the minister said that not even the Dutch agreed with the first initial one. But Madam Chair, it was their solution. It is the Dutch that came up with putting this loan together, and we was making believe as if they was forcing it down our throats to accept it, Madam Chair. That is what was being sort of relayed to us. Van Huffelen was saying, listen, we, the Dutch government, can make a loan available to solve this problem. Madam Chair, it's out in the papers. It was said in and out. The Dutch government, Van Huffelen, is saying, look, listen, and if you don't accept it, then the interest rates are never going to be higher. So now I'm hearing from the minister that not even the Dutch government was in favor of their own loan. So then, Madam Chair, the question is, who came up with it? Who came up with it, Madam Chair?
Thank you. Thank you, MP Emmanuel. Minister, you'll give some more clarification to the statement regarding the loan and who is in favor of it. Minister, you have the word.
Yes, so I don't remember the exact article from Van Huffelen, but I can say this, that the Netherlands wanted a solution for the refinancing, right? And that's where the conditions came from. There were conditions that you must find a solution for the Ennia situation, and those conditions were based on the refinancing. Just to be clear.
While MP Emmanuel is contemplating the answer, I'll give the floor to MP Gumbs at this time. MP Gumbs, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to you, here, my colleagues, the Minister and his support staff, and thank you to the Minister for sending the speaking notes presentation that you provided to us earlier. So just reading through it, I just have one question for now, and if I have more after I finish studying it a bit, I will come back with those. I just had a question about the governance. So you mentioned that the shares in the new co-Ennia are going to be held by a Stichting Beheer, so a foundation, and with professional new management installed and new licenses issued under the supervision of the CBCS. But then it talks about a supervisory board that consists of 4 members, 2 for Curacao, 1 for Simaten, and 1 for the CBCS. That's an odd composition. Boards don't normally have a 4-person composition, so I just want to know why not 3 or 5 in the composition of that Stichting board. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Gumbs, for that question. And Minister, while you're preparing to respond to the questions by the members of Parliament, allow me to add a question to get clarification on an answer that you gave. So, Minister, in answering my question regarding the status of Mullet Bay currently, I'm talking Mullet Bay property, the management based on Sun Resort. So the management of Mullet Bay based on Sun Resort is seeking the best sale for Mullet Bay. But nothing would be done about this search that they're on without government's approval. Is that the understanding that is there right now? And if so, if that's the correct understanding, how hard is this commitment that nothing will happen without government's involvement / approval? The Minister, are you ready to respond to the questions posed? Sorry, Minister, you need a few minutes. Okay, I'll adjourn until, you said 5, Minister, did I understand you correctly? So then we go until 5:30. Meeting will be adjourned until 5:30. members of Parliament, Minister of Finance and support staff, all others tuned in to this continuing Central Committee meeting of Parliament. Welcome back. After a brief adjournment, the Minister is back with responses to questions posed by members of Parliament. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We decided to give a little bit more of a maybe history of the process to MP Emmanuel. So to not burden the country's budgets, the initial setup of the agreement was to have Ennia loan the money from the Dutch government and the countries guarantee the loan. This was then shot down by the Netherlands. Then it was proposed that the central bank takes a loan and the countries guarantee the loan. This was also shot down as the Netherlands wanted the countries to be responsible for the loans. Lastly, the countries accepted the loans in the condition it doesn't affect our interest burden. The CFT then advised that the proposal will affect the interest burden of the countries, and that has been Curacao pulled out of the solution as they would be over their interest burden and not St. Martin. Actually, we would have still been under ours, and therefore they would not be able to obtain any loans for the capital investments for the coming years. MP Gumbs answer regarding the governance. The 4 members to be appointed on the binding nomination of Curacao, 2 for Curacao, 1 for St. Martin, and 1 for Central Bank, for the resolution fund, and not for the Stichting Beheer. If you look to the amount of the 4 members, this is needed. This is indeed not common, but mostly as a result of the negotiated representation taken into consideration the distribution of the contributions, and at the same time to have checks and balances in place. With regards to the Stichting Beheer, the board will consist of 3 members, which will be appointed in accordance with the Articles of Incorporation. However, the first board will be appointed by the Central Bank. And MP Westcott Williams, regarding the agreement from Sun Resorts, if you mentioned it was a hard agreement, it's not an agreement in writing. It's an agreement we had in the Council of Ministers. I see the Minister of VSI here. Maybe he could confirm if so. It was a minuted meeting in the Council of Ministers where we did agree upon that. So I would consider that an understanding via the Council of Ministers. And that's all the answers.
Thank you, Minister of Finance. I see no request or need for further deliberations. Oh, the Minister. Oh, no, we have MP. We have MP Omar Otley, who wishes to present a comment or a question in connection with the discussions ongoing. MP Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Good day to my colleagues and the viewing and listening public. To the Minister of Finance, definitely, I would first and foremost say that this is a much better solution. The first solution, it was a hard pill to swallow. And you know, in the Council of Ministers, of course, there was a lot of kickback against it. However, now the fact that we found a solution to be able to pay from our own budget and be able to collect dividends, which will help not only prevent reductions of payouts, but help us to probably save and not have to touch our budget, I say it's a good solution. This was something that when it was brought up in the Council of Ministers, I immediately jumped on it. I think what was created, and I rightfully so, a lot of backlash was created towards the loans, and there was miscommunications where it pertains to the conditions. And as you can see, sometimes State Secretary may write things that are not quite accurate, and we take the political backlash locally. So I just wanted to say that with this solution, you are correct. This solution has my support way, way better than the loan idea, whereby we have to be creative and find ways to secure the full payment for these persons. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Otley. Members of Parliament, can this discussion be considered sufficiently deliberated upon? Of course, with the caveat that if any member or members deem it necessary based on the written answers that we have received to request another meeting that can always take place based on the guidelines for requesting meetings. Minister, in your response says you have indicated that you will be responding in writing to clarify whether there is a request or there was a request or a case made against the government to have all structures removed from Mullet Bay Beach. You're going to give clarify whether that has been done by whom and with what results. You also indicated, Minister, that you will be able to share with Parliament actuarial reports or report, and that too is noted, as well as the main points agreement, Hof-Leinen Accord, that seemingly has been reached, and your response to those three outstanding matters for this meeting. Minister?
Yes, just to clarify, we are going to send the actuary report, not the, you mentioned something else different. We have a letter actually, yes.
You have a letter that...
From the central bank. A letter from the central bank stating that the actuaries were involved.
Okay. Okay, and that will be shared with Parliament. MP Marcelina, you have a question with respect to what has been...
Yes, please.
MP Marcelina.
Minister, I'm a little confused. I am understanding that a settlement has been made between the government of St. Martin, Curaçao, and the central bank concerning this 600 million?
Minister?
A settlement by whom? Sorry, to you, Madam Chair.
MP Marcelina, could you further clarify your question?
Because my colleague, MP M.D, said that he had a better feeling for the second solution that has been discussed in the Council of Ministers. I'm asking myself, which solution are you speaking about?
Minister?
A partial restart. The solution that has been sent to Parliament. So we have, all the members have received the... Oh, we're going to get it today, but it's a partial restart. So the solution is what we discussed this morning, or this afternoon, as proposed to the loan, which was the 600 million loan. So now the solution is that we pay from the budget, from our budget. Curaçao pays from their budget, we pay from our budget, but we get a dividend from the central bank that supplements our portion. And that's what Minister Vesa was mentioning, that it's not just out of our income. No, we're getting a dividend from the central bank that supplements the payment to for the solution, potentially even with a surplus.
Minister, with your answer, prompts me to ask, so we'll be getting an extra dividend from the central bank? Minister?
So it's not an extra dividend, it's a dividend we will be getting, and a part of it goes to the restart, and the other part comes to us. So let's see the amount, because the amount hasn't been calculated, but we estimate that a certain portion will go into the restart, and there will be a surplus that then comes to the government.
So the dividend that the governments are supposed to get even now, governments are entitled to dividends from the central bank right now. So it's nothing new that the central bank will be given for the government. So what you're saying, Minister, the dividend that is paid by the central bank to the two governments, part of that will go towards the repayment. Minister, if you can clarify that issue about dividend payments from the central bank?
Yeah, so it is a dividend that they were supposed to start paying us already, and now we will be receiving it, and that dividend now will be going towards the restart, and a portion coming direct to our coffers. So it's not the current dividend from the 1% fee.
No, that's not considered dividend in my books.
Exactly, just making sure, yes.
Okay, I see looks on several of my colleagues' faces, so I think that this is going to require a further discussion to come to a clear understanding. It's okay. Emmanuel, I see the same look on your face as well. So, members of Parliament, Minister, Minister, you have a further clarification to give before I close off this part. I mean, this meeting, but on the topic, because I think some more information regarding the central bank and the dividend, I think that is necessary. And so I will invite you to take a few minutes and then give a further clarification on that part. So, Minister, let's just adjourn for the next 5 minutes will take us to 6 o'clock. I'll adjourn for 5 more minutes so that we can get this part here clear by the Minister. Meeting adjourned for 5 minutes. Members of Parliament, Minister and support staff, others viewing or listening to this meeting of Parliament, a Central Committee meeting of Parliament on the topic of Ennia and the financing of the new proposal of Ennia. Minister returned to provide additional information, and the Minister will now give a brief further elucidation on the matter of the repayments and how that will take place, or the financing rather, of the new proposal regarding Ennia and how that will take place. And as we discussed, I will not close this meeting after the Minister's presentation, allowing the members of Parliament some more time to go through documentation that was received, and any further questions will then be posed in a continuation of this meeting. So, Minister, let me give you the floor maybe for some closing remarks in this context, and then we will proceed as I indicated. Minister?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I understand the concerns from MP Emmanuel. We had similar concerns or discussions with the central bank. As I mentioned before, we kind of indicated to them we are entitled to this dividend. Let's find a solution as fast as possible to speed up this process and ensure that we have a dividend that comes in to supplement the payments to be able to pay for the policyholders. But as you mentioned, Madam Chair, what we'll do is go further into these discussions when we come back after the adjournment. So I look forward to that meeting. And as I mentioned before, that we've always put the concern of the policyholders first. And so that's always our solution, that we have to find a solution for the policyholders first. That'll be all, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Minister. And members of Parliament, thank you for your participation in this meeting. Minister and your support staff, thank you for being here in this meeting. Members of Parliament, as we discussed, I will now adjourn this meeting, and it will be called at a later date, not too far from today, in order to get some additional information and post whatever questions might still be there based on the documentation that we received. So once again, thank you all, and I hereby adjourn this meeting until further notice. Meeting adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.